Hey, welcome back. It's been a minute, hasn't it? Well, there's a good reason for that. You see, I had to change day jobs. And the change in jobs changed me from engineering to being an auditor. What does an auditor do, you ask? Have you ever seen the movie Nobody? It's nothing like that. The good news is you didn't have to sit through an ad in order to see that joke, so congratulations. On the other hand, I do not work for the government either, just in case you were curious. That's not my thing. Now that we've gotten that over with, let's talk about what today's video is about, and that is load development and the selection of a node. Now, this all started with an email from a patron. You know, I have to thank my patrons because they keep me making videos like this for you for free. They provide all of the resources to do this, and I really appreciate each and every one of them. If you want to help out, you can go to patreon.com. There's a link in the description. Now that I've put that plug in there, let's get down to what I'm talking about. So the question was, why is it this other YouTube creator notes that putting a Mirage shield on their barrel changes the tune? Well, that's a great question. In order to answer that question, we have to get some basic understandings going on about load development and what the tuning process does for us. Now, I've made previous videos on this, and I've used the term node. Now, node is a colloquial misnomer that we use in load development. And unfortunately, because everybody tends to use it, I'm going to continue to use it. It may not be a perfect description, so we're going to make a definition right here. This is my definition because it's my video. My definition of a node is a location on the load spectrum that provides the required level of precision, and that's it. Notice I say precision, not performance, and that's an important distinction because performance and precision are not the same thing. So let's talk about the types of nodes that I've encountered in my load development practice over the last 10 years. I'm going to arbitrarily name these. I have a type 1 node, a type 2 node, and a type 4 node. Why is there no type 3 node? Because I said so. So let's talk about the characteristics of these nodes. And I want to do this in an analogous way. The problem is coming up with an analogy that works for all of you. And I've been looking at the metrics on YouTube. The vast majority of my viewers are male. And I thought, hey, we could talk about women. Until I told my wife what I was thinking, and well, we're going to talk about cars instead. So a type 1 node. Let's talk about this in the terms of a daily driver. It gets you where you need to go every single time. It doesn't break down. It continues to run. It's super reliable, and it's just there for you all the time. And it forgives most of your errors when driving. It may even drive itself if you're into that kind of thing. So a type 2 node is more like a factory sports car. They're not quite as reliable as those daily drivers are, at least not in my experience. But they're faster. And they're a little less forgiving when you screw up behind the wheel. So you can put yourself in the ditch if you aren't paying attention. And that's really what a type 2 node is like. It's, for the most part, really good, really fast, really sexy, and high performance, but you can end up in the ditch if you aren't paying attention. Now, a type 4 node. Let's talk about this in terms of a top fuel funny car. You either win or you blow it up and set yourself on fire. There's no two ways about it. You're either going to win or you are going to have a massive train wreck. Car wreck? I mixed metaphors there, I guess. Anyway, you know what I'm getting at. So let's talk about how these perform in terms of a load. So a type 1 is going to shoot nice, small groups all the time. It's never going to get too big, even when you have a slight temperature change, humidity change. You miss your tune slightly. You aren't holding the rifle the same. It goes on and on. It's very reliable, very dependable, and it's always there for you. Type 2 node. A type 2 node is going to shoot super small most of the time. If you get a little out of sorts with it, it's going to grow on you. And it's not in a good way. The group is going to grow. You may find that it throws the occasional vertical 9 when you're out of tune. And this is where that video before came from about managing your tune in real time. With a type 2 node, you have to manage your tune in real time. If it's acting like it's a little hot, you might want to slow it down. If it feels like it's a little cold, you might want to speed it up a little bit. You get the idea. Okay, type 4 node. This is the temptress of your load development process. It shoots a super small group, and it does it repeatedly, but there's nothing good on either side of it. But it shoots super small. It shoots 60 thousandths at 100 yards. It shoots a sub 1 at 600 yards. When you test it for 5 shots, it is super awesome when you're doing load development on that one day. But you go back out there with a 10 degrees different, and it's 4 or 5 inches at 600 yards. At 1,000 yards, it might be 8 ring to 8 ring one day, and it might be on the letter X the next. And that is the variability of a type 4 node. So when we start looking at type 1, type 2, and type 4 nodes in the context of F-class shooting and of the 284 Winchester in particular, we have to look at it as a load spectrum. So let's put a load line up here. Here is your starting load, and here is your max load. And obviously the velocity is higher at the max load than it is at the starting load. So let's plot where our type 1 node is with the 284 Winchester. It's right here. Now, I'm not going to put velocities out. I'm not going to put out charges because it changes with powder. Reloader 23 is different from Reloader 16. H4831SC is different from H4350. It goes on and on. You get the idea. So there's no use in giving you velocities or charges because it doesn't make any sense to do so. So a type 2 node in the 284 Winchester is right here. A lot higher velocity. Now, the type 4 nodes. Yes, nodes, as in multiple. There are 2 of them in here that you're going to find. One is right here at max, and the other one is down here somewhere. Now, it's not equally spaced between the type 1 and type 2. It's going to vary a little bit from chamber to chamber, powder to powder. But it's right in there somewhere. And this one is going to tempt you. You're going to be shooting load development. You're going to go, aha, I got it. It shoots super small right now. You're going to take it to a match somewhere else at a different temperature, different humidity, different condition, and it's going to bite you in the ass. And that's the problem with a type 4 node. It looks really good when you're doing load development for one day or even for 2 days on a weekend. But when you start moving from place to place with it, it's going to eat you alive. So you're either going to win big or lose big. And there's no real in between with a type 4 node. You either win or you lose big. Type 2 node is a little different. Your results are going to vary a little bit, whether you're good or not with your load management and your tune management. But realistically, you're either going to win or you're going to be in the top half or maybe the top quarter with it if you do your job as a shooter. A type 1 node, well, this is a different story. This is an actual problem child because we are looking at precision rather than performance. A type 1 node in the 284 Winchester has more wind drift than the type 2 does. And as a result, when the wind blows, you're going to lose more points. It's inevitable. You are not likely to make perfect wind calls on every shot. And when you make an incorrect wind call, that slight increase in wind drift is going to drag you out of the 10 ring on occasion. One of those skinny sneaker 9s that costs you a point. While the type 2 node is going to just slightly nip the edge of the 10 ring in that condition. And all they have to do it is once or twice a day, and they've got you. And you're down the list. And that's why I shoot the type 2 node. Let's go back to that original question about Mirage shields. Now, this isn't about Mirage shields. This is about the characteristics of nodes. The point is, when we add a Mirage shield to a barrel, we are making a very, very slight change in the dynamics of the barrel. Unless you're running a Mirage shield that's made out of a chunk of steel or concrete, you're not adding much weight at all or much tension to the barrel. And when you have such small force changes, to see big changes in the tune, big enough that you can actually identify them reliably over reasonably large samples, well, you've got something wrong with your load. And likely what's going on is you're sitting in a type 4 node, and that little bit of weight that Mirage shield adds, that little bit of tension it adds, is blowing you out of your node. And that's why you have to be careful about selecting your node when you're doing load development. So I'm sure you're wondering about other cartridges. So let's talk about a few of them. How about a 6-dasher? Well, a 6-dasher with a 28-inch barrel has about the same pattern as a 284 Winchester. The lower one is the Type 1 node, and the upper one is a Type 2, which is all well and good. You just shoot the Type 2 node. Now, when we talk about other cartridges, we can find ourselves in situations with certain wildcats, certain cartridges, where the Type 1 node is the higher performance node. And that's a pretty rare situation. As a matter of fact, virtually every cartridge I've tried to load develop over all these years, and that includes several Magnums, the Type 1 node was the lower velocity of the two. And it's a rather interesting way of looking at things. The consistency of the Type 1 node tends to be at that slightly lower velocity. And we're not talking about a huge amount. It might be 80 or 100 feet a second slower. But when you give up velocity for precision, and the precision is adequate at the higher end, you're better off taking the higher performance load. Which one are you shooting and why? Until next time, shoot straight, be safe in your reloading because it's important. And I'll see you in the next video.